So before we get into kind of like the Matterhorn stuff in the gym and all that, I want to hear a little bit about kind of like just your background playing, starting from youth. So for us, like because we have like the parents, players, a lot of people that listen, I think it's interesting to hear people coming from different places and different things. So start with like the youth thing, and then we'll branch up from there.
Yeah, I grew up in Long Island, New York. Played for the Long Island Gulls growing up. At the time was just one of the organizations in Long Island. Now has kind of become the premier organization in Long Island. Played through Bantam year there, and then my first year midget, I went to play juniors at the New York Apple Corps, where we had a good group of players who were all from the tri-state area, stayed local, and played juniors at home. Played 3 years of juniors there, and then committed to Cornell. Played 4 years of college hockey at Cornell under Mike Schaefer. Had a phenomenal experience there, just with our teams, and under his leadership, we went to the Frozen Four my junior year. We were top 10, I think 3 of the 4 years. So we had a pretty good program the time I was there, and still maintains a pretty good program today. And after that, went on to play 14 years professionally. Played 4 years in North America, 2 of which was up and down with the San Jose Sharks, and then played 10 years over in Europe, mixture of the KHL, Swedish League, Switzerland, and Finland. So.
Right on. So when you started youth hockey, were you AAA or equivalent to whatever triple? Because I know you're in the States, so I don't know if it's different or how does it work?
Back then it was like A hockey, they called it. Yeah. We had A, B, or C.
Okay, so
I think it was like AAA, AA, or
so
C.
It would have been like the highest that you could be. I
think that was the highest. Yeah. I mean, when we played Tier 1 nationals, when we would go to nationals and play against CompuWare, Little Caesars, stuff like that. So yeah, it was AAA equivalent. I think just back then, A, B, and C worked. I think nowadays everyone's got to have, everyone's got to be an A, right? Everyone's got to have AAA, AA.
Yeah. So when, at what moment or when kind of was the year where you realized that you were a pretty good player, or like you had potential to kind of jump up and play at a higher level?
I always like had the dream, like from the time I was really young, I always wanted to play professional hockey. Like that was like my dream. I went to the Ranger games when I was young, the Islander games when I was young, and I just always wanted that. Never really, ever remember thinking like, wow, this is the time I can make the jump to juniors or make the jump to college. I think you always have a little bit of that uncertainty when you're making that jump, and say, you're feeling it out your first couple of games to see, what the level is actually like. But I just love the game, and I just always believed in myself that I think I was a smart enough player that I believed I could adapt to every level. And some levels took a little more time than others, but I was fortunate to be able to kind of consistently keep progressing. And I think a big part of that was my desire to get better all the time, and like my work ethic. And I can honestly say I believe I got better all the way until I was, 35, 36 years old. And that was a knock on me when you were young, and I was small, and they say, well, how much better is he going to get? This is his top end, obviously a bigger guy who has a little more potential in his body to fill out and things like that. Scouts and people say, wow, this guy's got a long way to go. For a smaller guy, they always think this is the level where he's going to stop. And for me, I just kept focusing on development and getting better, and fortunate I never stopped, developing, and enabled me to play a long time.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I didn't think about necessarily chatting about this, but I think it's a good message too. So for being were you always a small player?
Yeah.
Like
always the smallest.
Right from youth.
Yeah. Every picture, if I wasn't a captain on the team, I was in the top left corner.
Yeah. So how was that? How did that shape like your mindset towards the game? Like you excelled, played super high. Like how many games you play in the NHL?
19.
So you got there.
Yeah, got there.
Right.
Yep.
And so like how did that feel like a plague or something that you're constantly fighting against? Like, how did you deal with that mentally?
Yeah. I mean, you always have that in the back of my, I mean, I dealt with that from the time I was, super young. He's not going to be able to play checking when we went to Pee-wees. He's not going to be able to play juniors, he's not going to be able to play college, right? Or pro. And that was just something that, was an advantage for me because I learned how to deal with it so early that, my mindset just really developed about focusing on myself and development and getting better. And it really helped me kind of get to the next level. At that era and that time, it was a physical game, and small guys were not, very looked at. So, I think it was my dad early on ingrained, in me that, you can't be scared to go in the corners. You got to play physical. And so I played a physical style. Like first 2 years at Cornell, I led the team in hits each year there as the smallest guy on the team, and just really had to put it out of coaches and scouts' minds early that this guy wasn't afraid to like mix it up or get in there. I wasn't fighting much, but I definitely played physical.
So what did, from a mindset standpoint though, like what helped you to kind of get over the fear? Was it just like, I'm going to voluntarily jump in and just get in the thick of it? Or like, what were the steps for you that got you, in that position where you weren't scared?
Yeah. I mean,
or were you scared? Like,
I remember,
being scared?
yeah, I remember like first year junior, I was 15 playing against 21-year-olds, and I remember there were games where I was definitely scared. There the games, like, it was a bad league too, and so things were getting out of control with like fights and things like that. And I remember being like, "Oh my god, like what is this?" You know what I mean? But like, you find a way to like use your body to protect the puck, reverse hit guys to protect yourself, and like you get some confidence out of that. And so when you can kind of use your shoulder and light someone up, and then you realize you're able to get some space for yourself, and people come in a little more under control. So I think it was just doing it and just really jumping in to do it. And, I'm sure there were times when I was younger where I did pull up going into a corner or something like that. I'm sure that happened, but, you don't let it happen again, and you realize when it does, and you feel almost like I felt shame, I think, or, you can imagine that feeling of just like, man, I should have went in the corner there. Yeah, I mean, it happened. I remember a time in pro it happened where like I was going back and I was in a really bad position, and I tried to like reverse hit the guy as I was going back into the corner for the puck, and I did it like way too early, and I missed him, and then he got in front of me, and I pulled his shoulder and took a penalty, and I went into the box, and I was just like, that was awful. Like that was just like, I should have just went and got the puck and took the hit,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
so like, I think that you just realize like, and you learn from experience, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing.
I think that's a big one, man, because for a lot of kids, that's a pretty common question I get across, like from parents, even just like in comments, messages, kids that are either undersized, underdeveloped, or just smaller, like how they can mentally get past that. And that's kind of what I say. And it's nice to hear it from somebody who went through it themselves. Like, just do it, like just actually doing it, make yourself do it and be okay with doing it. Like that's big.
And I think initiating the contact, right? And I think that's a big thing is you initiate contact. You're not waiting to get hit. You're initiating the contact. That not only allows you to feel strong and comfortable in your, balance and things like that, but also when you do that, the next time the guy's going to come into the corner, especially as a smaller guy, he's not going to want to get lit up by a guy who's 5'7", right? If he just got lit up the shift before. So he's going to come in under control because he was already embarrassed, once. Now you have a little more room to play the game, and you don't get hit as much. So
yeah, that's great, man. Like, so when you ended up getting to college, you said you played at Cornell. How did that, you felt like that prepared you for the fact you're playing a more physical game? Like I've seen so many of these Division I games. I played against Division I teams. Like it's a heavy game and you're playing against men. So do you think that, like, I'm sure you'd say yes, but like that set you up for that style of play, or were there elements that you felt you needed to figure out still when you were there? Yeah,
I mean, and through juniors, I was definitely, playing physical, and in particular, like the reverse hit. Like I would like do that quite a bit, but yeah, in college, you're fighting to get in the lineup. So like you get in freshman year, like I think the reason why I led the team in hits the first 2 years because I didn't have the puck, and I felt like the junior and senior year, I had the puck on my stick where I was like actually playing hockey, not just like running around. But it was important even from like the training camp started to like show the coaches like you're gonna do whatever it takes to like get in the lineup and play the style that.
What were you saying on the way here about like the size of the guys that you're playing against?
Yeah, we had 3 guys on our team that were under 200 pounds. It was me, guy Scott Cron, and Chris Gartman. And Chris Gartman was the goalie, one of the goalies. And so like 3 guys were, under 200 pounds. The rest of the team was over 200 pounds. And we had some big boys. I mean, Douglas Murray played in San Jose, 6'3", 245. Stephen Bobby, 6'5", 245. All of our D were 6'2" and not. And the guys who were like 5'11", 5'10" were like 220. So it was like a very big man's game,